Okay, so I wrote it again. So welcome everybody to this side event, technical side event on the GeoNetwork and INSPIRE. We have today with us Jeroen Tickler and Barbara Brugelli and Michel Gabriel, excuse me. They are from the company GeoCat, which is working for the Joint Research Center for the development of the revamped INSPIRE GeoPortal. So we organized this event in order to have kind of first interaction with the representatives from member states and also responsible for the catalogs, national catalogs in Europe, in order to discuss about the current functionalities achieved in the INSPIRE GeoPortal, in the revamped INSPIRE GeoPortal, which is supposed to replace the current GeoPortal, which is still online. And yes, have a first discussion about missing functionalities, how to engage with the GeoNetwork community in order to make this application evolve. So I leave the floor to Jeroen to.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and nice to see you all here in this setting, which is, it reminds me of the times when I was working at the United Nations in Rome, and it also has this kind of rooms for technical meetings where you actually wanted to sit at a small table. It's a good place to be, and good to see you here. I'm Jeroen Tichelaar. I'm the founder of GeoNetwork. Back when I was working at United Nations in 2000. And I'm here with Barbara Vreugdenhil, who's doing project management and a whole lot of other things in GeoCat, as well as Michel Gabriel, and he's doing a lot of the user interface, UI, UX, usability work in GeoNetwork. So I have a couple of slides that yeah, I think so. Can you see the presentation remotely? Yes. Okay. Okay. So sorry for the hiccup. The main point of this session would be to have mostly discussions and interaction with you. Oh, is this better? Sorry. Okay, so the main purpose of this session was actually to briefly discuss the state of things that we've worked on, and then of opportunities towards the future, and have a lot of input from you also in that discussion. And obviously, I'll do my best to give input. So, as I said, the team here, Barbara, Michel, and myself, also after the session, feel free to connect with us. So we've been working over the last 1.5, almost 2 years, intensively on developing the new backend of the INSPIRE GeoPortal. And you've probably seen this screen already, and I'll not go into much technical detail. But this is mainly the components we've been working on. An orchestrator component that is actually working with the different small applications or so-called microservices, if you want, to orchestrate a harvesting process from member countries, do link checking in a second stage, and then do an ingestion process into the GeoNetwork catalog. And from there, you can then start evaluating, and you've all done this most likely in the test systems, and then ingest that data to the public geoportal once you're happy with that result. So I won't go into all the technical details of that because that's been discussed in other sessions. This was the last update of things that have been improved in the backend on the server infrastructure, on the harvester component, the link checker component. This is very, very small to read probably. The ingester component and the catalog. All of these are obviously committed to open source software repositories in the GeoNetwork project. Some of them may still be under a GeoCut repository in GitHub, but they're all publicly accessible for you to use and potentially also contribute. In GeoNetwork development, there's always kind of an open roadmap. Depends a lot on what people are willing to fund, are willing to invest in, and obviously have an interest in working on. So I haven't made an extensive list. I've just put a couple of things that I see on the horizon. OGC API records development is something that is maybe not directly of interest to INSPIRE, but in the long run for sure. It's a kind of an R&D stage. This is in also because the standard is not yet finished. Improvements to the DCAT metadata support. There's a lot of work done in Belgium, also in the Netherlands, and I hope these are all coming together in some usable metadata schemas and ways to handle DCAT metadata in GeoNetwork, so that it can also be used for a lot more than just spatial data. It's in use. It's also used by, as I said, by some Dutch agencies. I know Belgium is using it extensively, and it relates a lot to the open data portals, obviously. So we see GeoNetwork used both as spatial data catalog as well as open data catalog, and having both those type of data in there. There's likely further development of link checker and harvester components. The current state is a state, and it should be a state that is good enough for the current reporting. But there will obviously be new things requested or improvements requested, and those will then need small projects around them probably to make those changes or improvements. User interface is something that has kind of continuous attention. There's advanced editors, but there's definitely also a need for very simple user interfaces, both from just a client perspective, using the data, finding the data, as well as from people that are actually contributing data or metadata, and they want simpler forms, or they want less strict validations quite often. So there's a tendency to also develop new user interface components as well as improving the current. We have our current interfaces depending a lot on AngularJS, which is a library that is kind of outdated, old, and that would mean a big user interface development to replace that. Yeah, there's things to be done there definitely in the long run. As I said, also to the metadata editor. And question mark is really for you to have other things that you feel should be in a catalog. or are needed to further improve GeoNetwork. So, head of marketing here. What can we do for you? And what can GeoCut do for you? I think we can do a lot for you. We've changed the way we do our business from consulting to more enterprise products and services. So we have a GeoNetwork enterprise version that you can subscribe to. Same for the GeoServer. And we have a tool that integrates with QGIS or with ArcGIS to publish data to your GeoNetwork GeoServer instances. And we also have a full hosted environment called GeoCut Live, where some of the countries already run their catalogs on. And those kind of things really help, from our perspective, to have less pressure on our technical team, because they basically develop everything once. And it helps to improve the open source project a lot, because that's where it's based off. So you can always run with other supporting parties. Running it with the help of GeoCut, just I think is a convincing proposal to clients to really have something managed for them. Make sure new developments end up in core of the GeoNetwork project. And it makes a much more sustainable development team from our perspective. So this is kind of how that works. We develop on the open source core, and then we base an enterprise product, which is more than just the software. It's the whole package that you actually need to ensure that you have a good running system. And then on top of those products, we base our software as a service solution, SaaS solution, GeoCut Live. And that comes with a number of useful things. We have GeoNetwork Enterprise and GeoServer Enterprise that run on-premise. So in your own environment, it gives you long-term support, gives you access to expert knowledge. And it helps you when there are security or vulnerability issues, because we roll out fixes immediately when we see them on those products. Those fixes also come back to the open source version, but that's not, we don't support the clients on that open source version. 2 major releases per year for those products, and batch releases in between when needed. You have a free use of GeoCut Bridge for ArcMap, ArcGIS Pro upcoming, and QGIS, and you can benefit of the consulting and development services from our team. And GeoCut Live is the SaaS solution. It's basically the same as the previous benefits. Enterprise products on the SaaS bridge as a tool to publish and to publish your metadata, to publish your data. Managed servers, both pre-production and production servers, upgrades and updates, monitoring of the system, backup and restore. And there's a dedicated validation server for INSPIRE with our premium clients, so you can run internally your whole validation process. And the components we've been developing with JRC now are also something that we provide as an option to those customers, so they can do the whole link checking internally and then know what the status is before they go out to the INSPIRE GeoPortal. So that's kind of our services that we provide. And by doing that in this way, we've been able to invest a lot more in the open source software development itself and make a lot more sustainable development to that project. So thank you. That's my part. nice and short.
Thank you, Gerard. I'm also trying to transfer it.
Okay. So this is, I think, open for further discussion, but you also have a presentation to run now. Huh?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
cannot connect it to the internet.
Maybe your stick will work. Mine was on Mac, so that was a problem. Jordi is asking if you can wait a while he's transferring his presentation to the conference system.
Anytime you want to ask some questions to Gerard.
Yeah. And also remotely, if you have questions, please, or if you have suggestions or things you would like to discuss, if there's issues that you feel are of common interest that need attention. Yes? Yeah. Well, with the DCAT, we are further improving the existing implementation that we've developed with RIVM. What is the English name of that institute that deals with um, health and environment in the Netherlands? So we'll improve that implementation, and they are running that on their systems to see how it can work for them for the open data part. And we're in close contact with other developers in the GeoNetwork community and also with Geraldine on the work they've been doing. So for me, there's not one answer yet on which one, and I think that they're also a bit different in implementation. So I hope that both of them are good and sustainable. But then we have to see which one is most favored by end users. Yeah. We have currently the support where you just have ISO metadata and then derive DCAT from it. So you basically maintain an ISO metadata in your system. But there's also a need to have non-geospatial metadata straight into the catalog. So that's where the other schemas come. Doesn't really answer your question, probably. Yeah, I personally, I don't have a real vision on that part. I think that we will see multiple developments and then at some point see, okay, this one works best for a largest group. We can also compare them, but it always needs quite a lot of attention from a number of people in the community to start comparing them. Yeah, for me, it's a bit an evolving thing more than a strategy. Yeah. And for the OGC API records, we've been to the OGC meetings. Yeah, I wanna try to influence a bit where that OGC API records is going to, and see how it aligns with things like Stack, which is more focused on satellite data, and then see how we can best implement it in the catalog. It will be an interface on the catalog for sure. I don't know how quick and how there's already quite something, but to expand that, yeah, we need discussions internally in the community on how do we actually want to see this implemented and uh, yeah, how quick also. Yeah, yeah, we are working. No, currently not. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then how do we deal with that in the GeoNetwork uh, infrastructure, so to speak? Is it something that we plug in, or is it something that is sitting in core and is always available? Um, how do we deal with all these nested possibilities in OGC API records, which can complicate things compared to a CSW? Uh, so there's quite a bit of things still to sort out, I think. Yeah. It definitely needs investment. So if there's groups that are interested, it's definitely worth to formulate a project together with the developer community to see how to implement it. I think it will be step by step. Yeah. Yes.
So if I understand it correctly, you are investigating stack and API regulars.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Stack will be supported in GeoNetwork. I would like to see the two standards very close aligned so that it's easy to have to use both, or maybe even to support both. But yeah, yeah,
So I think we expect cases we can get.
yeah. Yeah, and there's a bit of I'm still trying to get grip on it. So that, but that's me as a person. So developers probably have a better sight on that. But me as a person, I'm still trying to get the concepts together. So I understand the concept of stack. I understand the one of OGC API records, and but then the naming can be confusing. And are they actually overlapping, or are they semantically kind of the same thing, or so that's a bit, but that's my my struggle, I would say. But yeah, 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 yeah. And but the goal also, I think, with OGC API records is that it is closely related to features, and that so also closer to the data. And I think a lot of development in GeoNetwork is already moving in that direction, and also in our own developments where we do a lot of work with GeoServer and GeoNetwork, where we try to see how can we get those two closer together so that you know it's easier to better understand, better access the data quickly. And so there have been developments also made for in France by Francois, for instance, that really immediately dig into the data once you find a metadata record, a description of the data, then dive into the data straight from the GeoNetwork interface to filter out particular features or points, and then be able to use those in another context or in analysis or in your GIS. So I think that's moving closer together. In the Netherlands also, there's some undertakings where I'm also involved to see how new SDIs and digital twins, how do you make use of the data that's coming out of those, and how do they relate to the catalog, or how does the catalog relate to those, basically. So how can you, yeah, manage those nicely together as one? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of thinking. It's not all of it is implementation, but it's also evolution. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. Jordi has his presentation.
So thank you for your presentation, Jeroen, and thank you for the questions. So now I will share my screen to show my presentation on the GeoPortal. Okay, hope that you can see. Can you confirm that you are seeing it online? Thank you. So I will explain the status and the potential evolution of this new tool, this revamped INSPIRE portal that we are building in collaboration with GeoCat. So this is the structure of my presentation. So I will briefly explain about the objectives of this, the current revamped INSPIRE portal that we have achieved at the moment. Also introducing some of the latest working steps, the results that we obtained in the testing web that we perform from July this year till October. And then I will elaborate some potential improvements of the system, trying to engage this discussion today with all of you. And then propose some final conclusions and possible ways forward in order to yeah, discuss with the community. So the project that we are dealing with GeoCat is about the renewal of the INSPIRE GeoPortal. So there are two components, main components. One, which is the main one, is the GeoPortal backend, which is the engine that is powering this INSPIRE GeoPortal catalog. So the project is based on a migration to a GeoNetwork-based architecture, which is one of the most common tools that is implemented by geospatial data catalogs in the world. So and here the main objectives of the project was to maintain as possible the current functionality of the INSPIRE portal, while improving the harvesting process, especially in terms of performance. This is thanks to the macro services architecture that is implemented in GeoNetwork version 4. While also moving all the system to a cloud environment in order to assure system availability and scalability in the future. And on the other side, since the current INSPIRE network is based on a customized user interface, we have also developed at the GSC new GeoPortal frontend with the collaboration of GeoCat. And here the main novelty that we have incorporated, but which is still not online, is the possibility to filter the datasets in the catalog by high-value datasets. This is something that is ready to be launched, but we are just waiting for the adoption of the high-value datasets implementing act. So this is the picture of the objective of the project. So the current INSPIRE portal is based on a own development performed at the GSC. So this is based on a Java application, which was started a lot of years ago. So it needed some renovation, technical renovation. And the main focus of the INSPIRE portal is the serving to the INSPIRE monitoring and reporting campaigns. So this somehow marks the structure of the website. And now it's been revamped to this GeoNetwork based backend. So on the other side, the user interface, we will be providing the filter by high-value datasets, and it incorporates as well some additional developments to integrate this new user interface with the GeoNetwork backend. Here you can see in the picture how it looks like, this including the current access by INSPIRE thematic data, but also this high-value dataset access that will be soon online. On the backend, as said, we are using GeoNetwork, and we are implementing it in an instance in the Amazon Web Service Cloud. And as you know, we have been working with GeoCat from 2021. They delivered a prototype at the end of that year, which was available and revised, and now we have achieved the final working system, which was delivered by September, October, and no, excuse me, by the end of May, and that the GSC tested during June. So there was a subsequent process of corrections from aspects identified in the testing, and we are currently rolling out the new GeoPort. About the working steps, so here I'm just putting some of the latest steps. So in the 17th in the 17th meeting, we announced the plan for beta testing the working system. This was at the beginning of July. By mid that month in July, we provided to member states and the EFTA countries a first training session focused on the use of the revamped INSPIRE portal backend without the user interface component. And by the 22nd of July, we launched this online survey for those participating in the beta testing to provide their comments, and this has been remain open till mid-October. And in the 5th of October, we also provided a second training session, which was mainly focused on resolving some questions that the member states could have during this period, and also present the results of this beta testing. So now we are in the process of rolling out the revamped INSPIRE portal, and we are delayed. So we have identified some security issues that has been identified in the process for security assessment that we shall undergo in order to proceed to going live with the GeoPortal. And this has been also the cause of the delay in delivering this third training session to member states, which was supposed to have present you not only the backend functionalities, but also the new frontend and all these pieces integrated. Still, we are following the plan to use this system, at least the GeoPortal backend, for the monitoring and reporting round to be held on the 15th of December. Here you can see the summary of these training sessions that we have delivered with the scope, the dates, and the video recordings, so that were also distributed to you in due time. Also in the last INSPIRE MICTI meeting, the 71st MICTI meeting, we provided a demonstration on the new user interface. And yes, this is just ready and being integrated with the backend, with the GeoNetwork backend. About some highlights on the beta testing process, participation and scope. The GSC requested member states to volunteer for participating in this testing process. Not all the endpoints have participated, but the GSC have already tested all the endpoints that were configured in the system with all member states, with 34 endpoints in total. So obtaining kind of global results. And here you can see the list of 20 endpoints that participated in the beta testing, which we should add an additional one, which is Iceland, who requested to participate in a later stage. So roughly we have 60% of representativeness of this beta testing process. And here you can see the preliminary results that were already presented in the last MICTI meeting, where you can see here a kind of comparison of the indicator values that were obtained in that stage, comparing the results of the indicators obtained with the current INSPIRE GeoPortal, which is still online, and the new GeoPortal backend. So here we can see that when making this comparison, we are getting some differences in the indicators. So it's a new system, so the way of working, of course, could have some impact on the code currently achieved. So in some cases, we are getting increased values for these indicators that you can see in green color, and in some other cases, we are getting decreased indicators. So as you can see, we are having more green than red here. So, and the only critical things that we consider that should be improved in this stage is that for those large catalogs, we identified an anomaly on the values for the number of downloadable datasets. And here I put these red dots for these large catalogs, which constitutes mainly France, Germany, and Italy. Okay, so we are in the process of identifying which are the differences between the code of the current portal and the new one, so that we can somehow obtain better comparable indicators. Okay. And here, this is the same picture, but just providing the comparison with rates. So, and we can see that most of the comparison values are better than in the whole process, but we have still to improve the system with your help. And with this, here we obtained, for example, some issues when running some of the harvesters for Lithuania and Poland because of specificities in their national infrastructure. So Lithuania had a specific protection system that prevented to run these harvests. And for Poland, there were also an issue about authentication. We had had already some bilateral meetings with these two countries, Lithuania and Poland, in October, and also with Germany in order to discover about these anomalies in the indicators for downloadable datasets. Just as a side comment for Slovakia, you can see that in the comparison of indicators, we achieved extremely good results. So, and this is just because there were some issues in the harvest of this endpoint with the old GeoPortal. Okay, so it's not representative here. We will be setting up other bilateral meetings with other countries in order to make the system evolve and improve the indicators in the future. Here you have the URL of the survey, the number of participants that provided feedback in the survey, and yes, so we had collaboration from Austria, Belgium, Germany, Greece, Finland, Croatia, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, and Slovakia. And in this survey, at the end, we asked the people participating to provide their evaluation of the new system, taking into account different aspects like functionality, usability, performance, and improvement. So there were a kind of mixture of opinions, but still we can see more green colors than red colors. But of course, we still have to improve the system. So now going to the interesting part of the presentation. So I provided here from the experience about the beta testing, also about the feedback that the countries provided in the survey. We have identified a number of elements that could serve as a kind of first brainstorming about things that should be fixed in the GeoPortal, should be fixed, or also additional developments that could be considered in the future. So first of all, during the process of the beta testing, there were identified some issues in refreshing the information in the GeoNetwork user interface. So And since these new INSPIRE tools that have been integrated with GeoNetwork, there were also some difficulties in the integration of the system, especially in terms of the user interface. So there is a room for improvement here. Another topic that we have started to investigate is the mitigation of these anomalies in the indicators for the accessibility of downloadables, mainly, but also for viewable datasets, which are, as I said, affecting mainly the large catalogs. So there is a need to fine tune the code so that it's more similar to the one that we had in the previous portal, at least in terms of functionality, because otherwise after the bilateral meeting that we had with Germany, we identified that we were probably acting more restrictively in the new revamp backend. So this should be somehow improved in the code, so that we are having the same. We are not being more restrictive in this process of evaluating the accessibility. And then here it's important point is that we are working in the resolution of some vulnerabilities that were identified during the security assessment that we shall undergo. We cannot prevent passing through this process. When we are rolling out any application of the European Commission. So this is a process that we are still ongoing, and we hope that we will be having good news soon. And another topic that we identified is that we will possibly need to upgrade the server in the cloud, the characteristics of this server in terms of number of CPUs, RAM memory, etc. So that we could have more performance of the harvest, and especially in this period of the monitoring and reporting route, because some of the countries, I could provide examples of Finland, for example, Germany as well, had some affectations in the service availability because of these performance issues in the server. So we will be taking this issue as well. And now about potential improvements in the system. So the last slide were most improvements that are, from our perspective, really needed to be tackled. And then about potential improvements are lags that we identified, and you already identified during the beta testing. So first of all, about potential development of new features, which somehow were not considered in the scope of the current project. So is to have as possible a link checking tool that help the countries to in checking this data service linking. In advance of for example, the monitoring and reporting round, so that you could have a tool that allowed data providers to improve the quality of their metadata, or let's say that this is consistent, and with this metadata we are really accessing to the services where we can interact with the data. There is also a need to have a more somehow clever or powerful bulk metadata downloader. This is not only to serve the users of the catalog, which may be interested in bulk downloading, for example, all the metadata files that have been retrieved in a harvest of one country, for example, but especially for the monitoring and reporting round, because as you know, every year we have to process all the metadata files retrieved by all the countries and then undergo with the bulk validation tool the INSPIRE validation of these metadata files in order to process the yeah, calculate the corresponding indicators in the monitoring and reporting round. Apart from that, and also coming from the testing that the countries perform, especially Slovakia, asked for having more options or increased options for filtering the data sets available, the metadata records available in the discovery services. Okay. And just to mention here that already this week on Monday, we had a webinar presenting the final specification for the MICT Action 2.3.2, which is dealing with this data service linking simplification. It had really good attendance, and yes, so this will be this good practice candidate will be presented for potential endorsement in the meetings that we will be running from this afternoon. So both the MIG meeting and the MICT meeting. So and we of course hope that this will be endorsed by these governance bodies, and then it would be the next step would be to implement the necessary changes in the INSPIRE technical guidelines, especially those on metadata and network services, but also consider the prompt implementation in the revamped INSPIRE report. This is why I put it here, this information. Here some examples from this webinar where we are making this data service linking simplified model with the mandatory use of the couple resource and the resource locators. So I invite you to access this URL where you will have the information about this webinar or the presentation and also the recording. And yes, this is just some information about this data service linking simplification. So in principle, the GSC have pushed for the implementation of part A of this. So this good practice had been structured in two parts. Part A, which is presenting the requirements for implementing this data service linking simplification, and part B, which presents a kind of alternative way of providing the metadata elements that are required in the metadata regulation. On the INSPIRE metadata regulation, and is in practical terms is providing an alternative mapping for those elements that we all were providing in the extended capabilities of the INSPIRE services. So this part is useful if you plan to stick to the standard implementation of OGC services instead of having these extended capabilities. But just as an important note here, clarify that this is just an optional approach. Okay, so if you have implemented the services with extended capabilities, you can stick to that solution. And here I put this information because we have to check really that the requirements corresponding to this part A were successfully implemented in the revamped geoportal. So for this, we hope that we can code with your help also for testing and maybe having some testing catalogs with examples, metadata records, examples that are implementing this good practice. Here I call for these member states who volunteer as well to participate in the development of this specification, particularly the Netherlands, Italy, and France. So, because of course these countries are more would have such kind of implementation examples, so this could improve the testing, let's say, or make it possible. On part B, of course, this part is not implemented in the new revamp geoportal, but because mainly it was under development during the last month, this part of the specification. So, and here important message is that for the implementation of these pending elements, we will be looking at future funding options that could make it possible, and this should be explored from the end of 2023. So, but in the meanwhile, and this is especially interesting here because we are all here and we can discuss about it. If you plan to really push for this good practice, or you are interested in pushing it, so we can maybe also consider to fund this partially fund this kind of implementation, trying to have some collaboration between different member states, something to be discussed. And in a more high level, further improvements that could be considered to be included in the revamped geoportal is the improving of the accessibility of datasets and services from the member countries, which is something that is still pending from the current status of the implementation of INSPIRE. But this also means that we should probably try to agree on a common way, simpler way of evaluating this accessibility of the dataset, so that it's easily to be implemented in the system, but taking into account also that when changing this procedure of this technical simplification for evaluating the accessibility of datasets, we will have also differences in the values of the indicators. This is totally understandable. So for this, it would be needed such kind of agreement between us. Apart from them, there is also the interest in harvesting EU-level catalogs, which could be offering European datasets currently available in such catalogs in the INSPIRE geoportal, which will complement the national data that is currently retrieved in the geoportal. And as Jeroen said, we should also explore about the potential opportunities that are brought by the future OGC API records standard, and also any potential synergies with Stack. And final slide about the evaluation and possible way forward. So the current revamp INSPIRE portal based on GeoNetwork open source is bringing transparency to the system. So in the current GeoPortal, we had kind of black box, which was not really good. So now the code of the GeoPortal that GeoCat implemented should be available in our public repository. It's open source, so any country, any developer could look at the code and propose changes. So what I can see, I want to express is that the code that we have developed is just the first step of development. And we must admit both sides, GeoCat and GeoC, that the complexity of the development was possibly underestimated, and especially GeoCat make a very huge effort in achieving this the current functionalities of the GeoPortal. And of course, there is a way for improvement, but important message is that this year's monitoring and reporting is a transitional year, so we are facing a change of system, so we cannot somehow consider that the monitoring indicators this year could be used for deriving very hard conclusions on the results of the indicator. So this is something that for sure will be treated in the MIG meeting, the MIG team meeting as well. So, and we hope that we pace these worries that for sure you will have. On the here the key message is that from now onwards, the evolution of the INSPIRE portal and also the evolution taking into account the developments from included in GeoNetwork shall be, I would say, community driven. So and this event today is putting the first brick in this process. And it would be nice if we could start promoting some synergies between us, and also trying to find agreements on potential funding opportunities, not only from the European Commission, but also from the member states, which would be more than welcome. So thank you very much. So any question from the audience? Hello.
It's available. Sorry. Yeah. It's as explained, it's an open source project. The repositories also for the link checker are public. You can access the code, you can download it, you can modify it, you can also suggest changes. Obviously, we can assist as a company. We do those as I explained in my presentation. So the code is there. The same as with the GeoNetwork code. I think it's also LGPL or GPL licensed, probably the European GPL license. So yeah, it's open, and your developers, your technical staff can look at the rules, can suggest improvements to those. Yeah.
What do you mean, Natalie?
There is some connection between European
Ah, so in principle, it's just a matter of cataloging, so having this list of U-level catalogs and just introduce them in the system as a new harvest. It's just a configuration process like the one that we are dealing with any of the countries. So the only thing is that, especially on the side of the GSC, this would of course have additional effort to configure these systems or to make this inventory of catalogs that we are willing to harvest. And there would be also some the work for the configuration and then establish all the process with such catalogs in order to maintain them in the system, periodically update them, etc., etc. But and I provide this comment because this was also in the interest of the DG environment from the European Commission. But apart from that, I consider that of course there is. It could be very interesting to have this because many times so we should also serve the users, the INSPIRE GeoPortal, and one of the main usage or use cases of the INSPIRE GeoPortal would be to have this information available. So.
Okay, I think that one of the conditions, some of them are not inspired by the program, provide inspired by. So is it a preliminary condition, to be honest?
I would say so. Also, an important percentage of the data that is currently being harvested from national catalogs is not really INSPIRE compliant. So I think that from now on we should go not only trying to provide access to INSPIRE compliant data, but also it's more important to have data available so that we can get both ASIS data and INSPIRE data. And I think this is also in line with the development or the current adoption of these high value datasets. So somehow this high value datasets and in general the Open Data Directive is trying to tackle the issue that these important core datasets are not really available or in many cases we are losing information. So I would say that it's much more important to get information that getting just INSPIRE compliant.
I agree entirely. That's just right for me. Data sets wider. This is the big also know that there are indicators in the market. Now, when it comes to the inspire requirements and the things that's not being it's on a form release, it's not take time. They actually agree. Yeah. The parameters, the policy, and then the effect that we
Um, yes, I totally agree. So somehow this is just a first idea about the need to or the willingness to tackle this U-level harvesting as well in the geoportal, but of course the conditions that and the governance process that we will be using in this process so should be agreed and clarified, of course. So any other question, Natalie?
Yes, another problem because we speak about the possibility to progress through the capital expansion. Already from the tackling the speech and the however, we that there are also documented other data. So I would like to see if we can consider steps again it was such a budget at the national level we provide the same information
Mhm.
supporting the conditions
Mhm.
to will face that because we'll have data available. So
Yeah, I agree. So, and I would say that this concept that we have uh, somehow presented today about this possibility to harvest U-level catalogs is also considering such kind of discussions. So at first level, the interest of the DG environment as understood by from jury would be to have these U-level organizations also on board in the INSPIRE portal. But of course, this is also the first step in going in the direction that you consider that. And I remember, for example, in the last INSPIRE conference in was September 2021, I think. Very good session on national level and regional catalogs, where Geraldine, I think, provided some good examples from Belgium, not only so all the Belgium catalogs and the good collaboration you are having to avoid such kind of duplications and really get the information transfer from all the catalogs that related and also the open data catalog. So I think this is just a matter of time to be digesting this information from, I don't know the opinion about from Jerome, but I would say that there is an increasing opinion that maybe the formats for the metadata should be moving to something a bit more simple like the GeoDCAT format, for example. I don't know. I could say that there are some kind of working in such direction. So from my personal view, the ISO format is a bit, we are very accustomed to use it, but it's a bit old-fashioned in my opinion. So and not just old-fashioned, but also having some issues. It was developed quite a long time ago, and probably the community should tackle this all these topics as well. So I have a question for Jeroen. And then I will also have a look to the questions that and topics that were provided in the chat, because I feel that we have a bit abandoned the people which is connecting remotely. And excuses if you were not able to see the presentations. I am not sure if you already could follow the sharing of the presentation. I hope so. So Natalie asked about the link checking tools. Okay, this is something that I understand that there is a strong interest in member states in having somehow. So we have the code of the GeoNetwork components dealing with the link checker that is open and available for member states to look at it and to improve it. But of course, there is probably a need of having a kind of more simple tool for the national catalogs and especially for data providers to improve the data service linking, etc., so that they are delivering correct metadata and with appropriate data service linking. So GeoCat provided as part of the work in the revamped GeoPortal kind of tool for checking specific cases, for example, just for one metadata record. So the question is, would be possible for member states to access this kind of one metadata link checking tool?
So I think all of that is still part of the same repositories. I think the easiest for a member country is to check against exactly the same system as the GeoPortal, INSPIRE GeoPortal will also do. So not have another system that may, run out of sync of what is actually checked at the European level when you do reporting. So yes, we have some utilities, so to speak, where you can, in the terminal, check one specific metadata and then get indicators and dive deep into it. It's not very easy to use, to be honest. So running a check against the normal link checker is by far the easiest. As I mentioned, our clients have an option to have that installed for themselves so they can run it. And so we basically facilitate the installation and so on for them. But since it's open source tools, you're also free to just install that yourself and configure it yourself and use it. So you have those options. And then there is options to do more advanced. It was actually more developed for software developers to actually know what's going on in a particular metadata, understand how the checks are done one by one. So it is quite complex to use, but there are some more in detail options to check your links. Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes sense to develop more of a user interface around that, yes or no. For sure, the default checks, you can just run them identically if you run what has been used in the GeoPortal directly using the same source code. Yeah, so there will be a process also there. I think that is important in a community process, and this is an open source project that is very much aligned with legislation where you need to comply to certain standards. So there's not that much of a flexibility where someone can say, oh, I would like this check better to be done in this and that way. I guess there needs to be some kind of formal process in your group to confirm that this is the way the check should be done and not in one of the other ways. I mean, for my developers, it's impossible to define those rules. This is something that comes from you. And then there can be discussion how that is actually implemented. And that's good. That's, I think, where the transparency is coming, where all of you can see how the check has been implemented. Yeah. So I invite you to use those repositories, use the code, run it. If you don't run it, be bothered with running it. We can support you technically to run it. Yeah. Does that answer the question? More than enough.
Thank you, Jeroen. So uh, it's related to that question, or? So I would stick this discussion to the MICTI meeting because I think there we will have, let's say, the wider audience of people, and I think this is really the correct place for having this discussion. But I mentioned that yes, the idea is to use the new revamped backend. So at the moment we are trying to solve these security issues that are now preventing to going live directly with the full structure of the job portal, including the user interface. And in that specific crucial moment, we should consider as a very important thing these security issues, because what we do not want is to go live with an unsecure system with vulnerabilities, which are especially in that period very uh, yeah, difficult thing, no, to have it in the system. So this, I think that this discussion should go there, and I want to give the floor to Jerry, who was waving the hand.
However, I CR here of there are other things as well. Inspired from accessibility. First question is
Okay, just I think that there is room for both to answer this question. From the GSC side, in the context of the current project for revamping the geoportal, we have not tackled this, let's say, usability directive, but of course, there is a topic that we should have in the horizon. So, as you said, we have plenty of directives, standards, and things to be compliant with. But yes, this project should be understood as a first brick, as I said. So, and on top of this brick, we should be able to build something between all of us, as I proposed in a community-driven approach as well, uh, uh, in building the whole thing. So. And I also leave the floor to Jerome because you also touch the GeoNetwork user interface.
Yes. Well, it's obviously a recurring topic, which is good to discuss. And GeoNetwork has multiple UIs actually, so there's not just one way of using the catalog. We have several skins on top of it, and each of those always is kind of needs to comply to usability or accessibility guidelines. It's something that Michel has been working a lot on, who's here, on several of those skins. It's very important to define to what level accessibility should be there, what things are wished for, which things are mandatory, which things are nice, kind of nice to have, or so where do we stop improving it? And it's also something that never stops. So every time a new function or a new development is added to the application, we see that it breaks usability somewhere. It breaks your flow when you tap through your application. And well, it's something that Michel is always looking at when new things come in. Do they actually fit? Because the developers like to develop something quick and they, this button can be here and no problem and it looks good. But then does it fit in the actual structure of the application to still have the accessibility? Is something that is a bit of a headache for us because obviously our clients always always say, yeah, but this is your responsibility. And then I say, well, it's your skin. So let's see where we, find some middle ground. Yeah, so it's great to have attention on that and to see some funding come together. I take as GeoCut, I take the stand that if I have enough clients that are paying my staff, I'll also invest in those kind of things, but only when that is sustainable. And so, yeah, that's kind of my point where I come from, and our change to having enterprise products and then having some additional developments next to that has improved a lot in the quality, I think, of the software in overall. So yeah, I invite you to also participate in that process. And we'll be here still a bit, but I think around lunchtime we'll leave and go back to the Netherlands. If after this session you still want to discuss things with us, with Michel, with Barbara, we're here to do so.
Thank you, John. Now I will try to give the floor to the audience so I can check if let's change again. So I think that Jaron already answered to some because I think it was. Yes, I saw the comment from Sweden that you already participated in the testing. We will correct this because yeah, the content of this slide was just provided before you already participated. So sorry for that. Um, and also for the feedback in the user in the survey. Also, Lena from Finland is stating that these issues when harvesting their national catalog, this, as I explained, um, this is part of the issue corresponding to the server and the need for upgrading the server technical capabilities, so that it's able to handle, for example, parallel requests from different member states, and this is especially problematic, for example, when large catalogs are also um, um, harvest in the at the same time, so or parallel harvest from member states. So we are in the process of providing the solution to upgrade the server, and also finding the necessary um, yeah, budget for that. Sorry, I was missing. So I think that the questions from Geraldine, sorry, from Natalie on the conditions to for the link checker were already discussed. Okay, okay. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I think there is no pending questions in the chat. So I would be maybe willing to kind of have a public vote on which are the, I will try to summarize with a word some of the topics that were presented today, either by Jeroen, the GSE, and also comments from you, from the audience, on the possible topics for future evolution of the INSPIRE portal integrated with GeoNetwork. So, which aspects you would be willing to highlight, Jeroen, on GeoNetwork evolution that could be interesting in the INSPIRE context? Just a few words and elements, so that.
So, well, I think maybe the best to highlight is that this is an open source software development project. So it really is about a community of developers and users. I think most important there is that this is a European context with the INSPIRE Geo portal, with a link checker. And at the same time, those aspects are also relevant to many countries outside of Europe, or whole continents outside of Europe, where the software is also used. So I really invite those that are interested in developing with us, in contributing, in collaborating in other ways, to step up and join, because that is what makes a software thrive and grow. We have other countries, Canada, Australia, or many other places where there's people contributing in different ways, and also in this INSPIRE community that's very important. So everything that is developed in this joint effort, Belgium is doing a very good thing there also, and also many other countries, Sweden, France, Netherlands, obviously, almost forget. All that contributes to tools that can be used across Europe and across the world. So for me, really, that is the invitation that is most important, I think, here, to step forward and not use free software as free beer, but as free in spirit and free in common software that you can share. I think that's the most critical thing. It will only grow if you also plant the seed or give it water or give it attention in other forms. So I think that's most important, and that also is true for things like the link checker. Link checking can also be of value to Canada or to Australia. We may then need to refactor a bit the way we currently implemented the checks, but it's valuable, and I'm sure there's a lot that can still be improved there. Thanks.
So thank you. So I think this is kind of invitation for member states in order to really interact together and also go in the same direction if we want to implement new things or change things, how things are working. Which is in fact one of the main topics that we consider today, and I mentioned explicitly the simplification of this, how the system is evaluating the accessibility. Here, I must admit that we were a bit trapped in the current project because, of course, there is the INSPIRE technical guidelines that are stating the rules that should be followed. And then somehow I think when I was proposing this kind of simplification of the data accessibility evaluation, what I was trying to say that maybe we have to look at these requirements that are currently stated in the technical guidelines in order to simplify the approach for evaluating the accessibility. So currently the GeoPortal is making even quality checks on so that when you start from the dataset metadata, you go to the service, and then from the services you go to the capabilities and go to the really you are checking as well if in the capabilities document you are linking to the appropriate metadata set again, so that we have this kind of quality process, let's say. But sometimes I feel that maybe we should consider this as a kind of separate thing. So what's the limit of quality checking, and what's the purpose of the INSPIRE GeoPortal? So perhaps the INSPIRE GeoPortal should just check that when you have metadata record, you can access the service and you can get the data. Okay, and maybe we should separate this topic from really analyzing as well that all the identifiers were appropriately set up in the metadata files which are linked, etc. So this where is the limit of the data quality of these metadata records or these capabilities documents, and what's the purpose of the INSPIRE GeoPortal? I think that maybe a discussion on this could be interesting to have in the future in order to really set up a kind of simple concept to be followed and agreed by all of us, and then implement it implementing it in the INSPIRE GeoPortal once we have revised the INSPIRE legal framework, let's say legal or technical guideline framework. So this is one thing that I think is related to the improvement of the accessibility of data sets, which is one of the pending aspects in the INSPIRE directive in order to improve what we have achieved with this initiative. And we also mentioned today, so first of all, who would be willing to in favor of discussing about this or having this kind of if you can just okay. Only two hands. I don't know if in the those people participating online. Okay. Third one? No? You are the third? Natalie? Ah. What the?
It's just.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Then we mentioned several aspects for improvement of the portal. One topic was on the. Let me go back to my presentation. I'm talking about the potential improvement. So one of these would be the need for a link checking tool for member states, which is more usable. Is any interest here that you can? One hand, only one hand. So this was okay, clear.
One thing we've been discussing, like what part of the implementation now is see the results of the link check inside one single metadata. So actually have pointers in your metadata record that fails for some reason or has warnings, see where the warning is and what rule is actually not matching or not matched or failing. And I think those are the kind of improvements that you can start implementing, but you know, that would greatly simplify your evaluation. You can filter down, you see, oh, this set of metadata records didn't pass a particular test. And now I can go through them one by one and actually see where is that problem? How can I fix it? I'm not sure if it really needs a separate tool because that, as I said, I think you risk having two applications that run out of sync. But yeah, that's my idea.
Okay, so kind of as Ine pointed, so if the good practice on simplification is implemented, sorry. As Ine pointed, if the good practice on data servicing linking simplification is implemented, it would be probably not necessary to develop this tool. So in that context, we have to also consider that there are some countries that implemented the services as it was required at the moment. So, but I think this is probably a matter of technical evolution. So we are facing as well the transition to this new OGC API. So probably all these topics will be totally renewed. So what we mentioned again, about the downloader is something that bulk metadata downloader. This is something that is for sure needed for the INSPIRE monitoring and reporting. So we will be trying to have because at the moment we can use for some of the catalogs the just selecting these metadata files that have been harvested for one catalog, just selecting them through the GeoNetwork user interface and download. But when you are, which is a bit hard because of course we cannot select. There is somehow a limitation of the number of records to be that you are able to select for this download process, and it's an issue for um, for the large catalogs, but this is something that we will be tackling somehow. I'm not sure if this is there is any interest in member states to have this. So you have experience even in your national catalogs, these kind of problems that the users have some issues in downloading a large number of metadata records results, or no? Are you happy? Okay.
Everybody wants to.
So yeah. There is also a need for lunch, I think. And then
I think you have your discussions for 2 days, and then if there's things that you feel you have common ground between the number of countries that want to join forces, then work with the developers to define what the project would actually need to have it developed. I think, yeah. There's many good points here, and there's probably a lot more things that you can think of. So again, we have a yearly event in Bolsena in Italy where all the developers come together. If there's people that are, if you have developers that want to join and become stronger part of the community, they are welcome also to join that. And we'll also work on organizing some more workshops around GeoNetwork, as well as sessions with developers to try to the session in Bolsena will probably be end of August because we have a conflict. Normally we always have this end of June, probably end of August this year. But I'm still trying to organize the place. And we're working on having a workshop, probably a 2-day session around GeoNetwork, where we get the developers together as well with users and see what things should be on the roadmap, who is willing to invest, who is willing to contribute in other ways, who's able to do that work. So yeah.
okay, so um, I wanted to say something that forgot. Okay, so I think that I hope that you find interesting the topics that we have shared today. It was also interesting to have your questions, your comments on the lead checking, on the quality, the high value data sets, this U-level data sets. The question on the topic on the usability. So I think that as Jeroen pointed out, we should kind of organize a way to interact in order to also express our specific interests, and trying to find the kind of common points with other parties. so that we can join forces somehow, especially taking into account this kind of idea of trying to find, trying to find synergies between us and trying to make the most of any potential funding available elsewhere. So it would be a good approach, for example, to ask, I'm not sure if in this meeting, but maybe in the next, something to be discussed with Alex Kotsev as well. If we could have a kind of vote on the main topics that we discussed today and trying to find really these interests, common interests, in order to orientate the future development. Would be a good idea. Yes? No? Okay. Affirmative one. So okay, so I think this is a plan, and I really want to thanks all the GeoCat team and especially Jeron and especially Jose and David as well, which are not present today, but they really made a huge effort. Was probably more than the one expected. So and yes, I think that we achieved something that we can be proud of, and we hope that we could improve it in the future. So thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope that we can close this session because it's roughly, okay. And for those attending remotely, also thanks for your attendance. Yes. I don't know if this is safe. Only, only if it's usable. So. So thank you as well to all the people attending remotely, and we really apologize for the difficulties that we had, especially at the beginning, because at this moment I've even not understood at this time all this system works. But thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope that the meeting was interesting. Bye bye.